Check 1 2. Check 1 2. What up, y'all? There's always something the last minute that just comes in the way of a perfect start. It's all good. It's the devil trying to keep us apart, trying to keep us from bringing this wonderful information to life. The information that hip hop can save America. It's the title of the show. I'm your host, your creator, your conductor, your guide through this complicated world of hip hop that isn't about dumb-ish, as we like to say here. I was just looking at some scattered conversation about Mayor Eric Adams going to be on Drink Champs, or was on Drink Champs, and the questions that arise from that sort of thing. We might get into that tonight, but probably I want to wait to see the whole. It's complicated, y'all. Y'all might look at that, and as my man, not my man, like I know him, but as my colleague Andre G said, I just noticed a tweet and I just responded to it. Proof that hip hop is no longer radical. I disagree vehemently, of course. I think that is not what we do here. What we do here is we emphasize and highlight and spotlight the hip hop that is radical, the hip hop that is interdisciplinary, the hip hop culture that does move forward and help the rest of the culture and help the society and humanity in many, many ways, particularly and most importantly in the communities, the lives, the livelihoods from whence hip hop came. So I think hip hop is still as radical as ever, perhaps more so than ever. I just don't know that Eric Adams and Drink Champs are the best examples of that. We, however, here on this vaulted show, provide you with information and insight about how hip hop is perhaps the most radical cultural movement in all of human history. That's my assumption. That's my blurb. I've talked very often about how folks who are not necessarily good for hip hop or the communities from whence it came or that are traditionally connected to it are purposefully and insidiously weaving their way into hip hop media. I've talked about this a year ago. We'll go back if you want to revisit it when I wrote a piece called the right-wing infiltration of hip hop. Now, I'm not saying Mayor Adams is right-wing, of course, but it's all part of the same pie. It's all part of the same puzzle. And it's real easy to look at that and say, hip hop lost its machismo. It lost its counterculture. It lost its, I'm already ranting. I should just play the intro to the show. And then we get into the show and I'll talk about it some more maybe later on. Hip hop is the most radical, most innovative, most inclusive, most uplifting cultural movement in all of humankind. If you disagree, I'll see you in the chat. I'll see you in the comments. Let me know I'm wrong, and we'll talk about it. In the meantime, in between time, let's run this intro and get this party started. Let's go.
Manny Faces.
You sick for this one. Sick for this one. Sick for this one.
The thing about hip-hop today is it's smart. It's insightful. The way that they can communicate a complex message in a very short space is remarkable. And a lot of these kids, they're not going to be reading the New York Times. That's not how they're getting their information.
My hip-hop will rock and shock the nation. Hip-hop culture is more than music.
Peace to you and speak the truth. Show 'em what peace can do in their race for you.
My hip-hop will rock and shock the nation. Rap is something you do. Hip-hop is something you live.
So hip-hop didn't invent anything, but hip-hop reinvented everything.
This is Baby Girl Faces, and this episode is brought to you by
Yo, I can't even begin to tell you. I'm not ready for that yet. Hold on, slow down. I can't even begin to tell you yet how impressed I am and how touched I am that we have patrons that are supporting this show monetarily every month. And we have like 5 new ones since that. I have to update that thing. I keep saying that. And then every time I'm about to update it, I get like, there's more. So I really want to thank. Obviously, you saw the ones that are there. I think we got a couple in the chat. The mighty Andrew Wang is out here, of course, representing as always. Dr. Raphael Travis shared this post before. I want to thank the new patrons that weren't mentioned on that montage. Kath Morgan, Adam K, Elliot, Dr. It's Elliot. Y'all know Elliot, but thank you, Elliot, for coming through. Dr. Elliot Gann. My man Austin at the VIP level, which means he gets a free merch. He gets to be on the show if he wants to anytime. You're at the VIP level, you can sit in and do the little chat with me, and we could be like, yo, what are you thinking about? What's on your hip hop mind? And you can jump on the show. Sarah as well, Sarah R. And Tony P. Tony P just joined yesterday up in Canada. So we get an international support. And I'm just saying, listen, I hate to do the whole, support, please give us $5 a month, give us $10 a month. But honestly, it really goes to good use. If you look, you'll see I'm sending out information. I'm giving you a newsletter. I'm telling you about interdisciplinary hip hop events. We're doing this podcast. We're doing the video. We're doing this video cast. We're transforming it to the podcast. All this stuff is happening. I've been able to put some money in some other folks' pockets to be able to help out and grow and evolve. So just it means everything to me. There's new merch. You could also support the merch. I don't really have a screen for it yet. I'm working on that. So anyway, just big love to everyone who's supporting the show. I see so many people like there's folks who write about, like stuff or broadcast about like the dumbest stuff, the stuff that doesn't really help the culture. And they get millions of followers and millions of clicks and hits. And that lets them bring in advertisers and make all this money off of the negative aspects of what's happening in hip hop culture and the cultures associated with it. Here we're trying to do something positive, and they don't care. They don't want this to succeed. So it is kind of up to us. Patreon.com/Manny Faces. We've got like 15. It's small. It's not a lot. It's like 15, 16 people. We're putting up some good numbers though. We're doing good work. Patreon.com/Manny Faces if you want to support. Now, tonight on the show, once again, just so I give you a real preview. By the way, Patreon members, they get a sneak peek at the guests before everyone else. So they already know, and they've come with their questions. As you see, Andrew Wang he knew about this hours and hours and hours ago, because I tell them, little exclusive, little heads up. We are speaking tonight with JooWan Kim. JooWan Kim is with a wonderful live music production called the Hip-Hop Orchestra Experience. And it's featuring ensemble Meek Na Wooge. Meek Na Wooge is the name of the ensemble. They're out of the Bay Area, out in San Francisco Bay Area. And what they do is they merge hip-hop and classical music. We've seen this thing before. We've talked about it before. They've been doing it for quite some time, though. It's become a recent phenomenon to a lot of folks, but these folks have been on this for a long time. And JooWan Kim is I'd say the conductor. He'll probably correct me, but he's a composer. He's a pianist, a classically trained musician that somehow, we'll find out more, entered this collaborative space of hip hop and classical chamber music, and to great effect over the years. And as you know, we like to talk about on this show the intersections of hip hop in different areas of society, the intersection of hip hop and education, science and technology, health and wellness, philosophy, business and commerce and entrepreneurship, spirituality, and in this case, the fine arts, as they might be called, but in this case, chamber music. So once again, we're here every Monday live. Thanks to everyone who's tuned in with us. I appreciate you. Give us a thumbs up real quick, if you could. Thumbs up for your boy, Manny Faces. One time for me.
Manny Faces.
You sick for this one.
Salute to you. Share this video. Give it a share. Let your people know that you're onto something pretty cool. And we'll talk about a couple of things that are happening in the world of hip-hop that you probably don't see too often. You find out some of these things on my free, newsletter. Hip-Hop Can Save America, the newsletter. If you remember, I used to call it Words I Manifest. It was a little bit more of a, check out what my profound statements about, me as a person and how I'm interacting with the world. And all it is really is, good information about innovative hip hop out in the world. So it was less about my personal journey and more about, let me give you this information. So I renamed the Substack newsletter, Hip Hop Could Save America, the newsletter, but it's still available at mannyfacessubstack.com because Manny Faces is the brand. You know what I mean? Like, I'm the brand. So I gotta, everything has to be on my name. But I do want you to check it out. It is free. And I'll put it in the chat. Just so you know, it's very it comes out every look, I'm doing pretty good these days, y'all. I'm putting it out like every 2 weeks. I'm giving you all this information about the interdisciplinary hip hop events. So when I say these things, it's like sort of like, look, I'm not going to do every concert in every town, every city in America. Not going to do it. Don't have the bandwidth for that. I did it for 10 years for Birthplace Magazine in New York, and that was too much. It's not the concerts. It's not the, not every single gathering of hip hop folk. What it is a collection of events that are interdisciplinary. So often we talk about like hip hop conferences at colleges or town hall, gatherings. We just had one at Lincoln Center in New York City, which was, an all-day symposium on women in hip hop, that kind of stuff, right? So first of all, if you know of these kind of things, please do send them over to me. We want to share them with as many people as possible. I have personally gone to events that the audience, members of the audience were there only because they heard it through us, through either the show or the newsletter. So if you want more people at your hip hop events, and there's like I don't want to say smart hip hop events, like a concert's not smart. Of course it is. It's all good. You know what I'm saying though? Like that. I don't know. So I've always struggled with this. Like, what do we call what we do? You know what I mean? Like we're looking at hip hop. I used to say Double XL Magazine had a great tagline. Double XL Magazine. Of course, we had the Source Magazine. Double XL Magazine came out, and their tagline was hip hop on a higher level. And I always liked that, and I thought that they did a great job because they started introducing more like long form journalism and more thoughtful pieces and a little bit more nuanced kind of writing before they fell off too, like all hip hop media basically did, like all journalism basically did. It's not just exclusive to hip hop media, but hip hop on a higher level. You know what I'm talking about. I don't want to downgrade regular hip hop. Everything is fine, but we talk about stuff that's sort of on a different level. So anyway, a quick rundown of some of those things that are happening. I didn't give a new edition of the newsletter recently. What I also do is I curate a bunch of stories from around the web that you won't find unless you're spending time curating stories. But they're good stories about hip hop. We did cover, of course, some passings in hip hop recently. The great Rico Wade down here in Atlanta, where I'm at now, who was just a monster figure in Atlanta and Southern hip hop. DJ Mr. C, of course, in New York, from where I was before, who passed away. Smaller, lesser known figures, but no less important to their circles. DJ Reality, Josh Rousey out of Durham. So folks like that, we compile them. We obviously try to give flowers before people pass away, but when people pass away, we want to make sure that our community knows about it. Other things that came up in the last episode, and shouts to Prism in the chat, who wanted to shout out Kenny Muhammad, the Human Beatbox Orchestra. First of all, beatboxing, I have been long overdue in recovering, because I covered it before, and recovering the beatbox phenomenon, the beatbox element, the beatbox box angle of hip hop. Kenny Muhammad, shouts to my man Chesney Snow, the late great Kid Lucky, the American Beatbox Championships that happened that I covered when I was covering New York City hip hop. This was a series of championship events that, again, our hip hop media wasn't covering. Hip hop media doesn't do a great job at covering anything but rap. It's really rap media. Longer conversation for another time. What I was doing when I was in New York was making sure I did my best to cover all of the elements, as you know, we talk about here on the show. But shouts to the beatbox community, long overdue to highlight on Hip Hop Could Save America. I did it before in my prior journalism work, but we've got to get some folks from the American Beatbox Championships onto the show. So thank you, Prism, for bringing that up. I am long overdue, long overdue. But as you know, I'm a one-man band, so we're doing the best we can. Anyway, a lot of other good stories in the recent newsletter, including Black Thought being crowned the 2024 Rap Laureate. Just like there's a Poet Laureate, there's now a Rap Laureate, sort of orchestrated by the folks at Words, Beats, and Life out in DC, a great organization that works with schools and does a lot of interdisciplinary hip hop work and works with youth poets and works with they have a hip hop festival every year. They just had one that passed. So on that note, we also list in the newsletter some upcoming conferences. I'll just rattle them off real quick. These are great for fans of hip hop. I know that sometimes we talk on the show a lot about like academics and teachers and educators and such, but artists certainly should tap into these events, especially if you're trying to do something a little bit more with your music than just entertain. You want to kind of give back to the community, connect with young people, work with different zones. I know a lot of teaching artists who work with work in education settings, folks who work in juvenile juvenile, like old school term, juvenile detention centers, which shouldn't exist, but since they do, it's great to have folks with a hip hop mindset, that artistry come in and talk to young people involved in those structures. And we find that there's a lot of great results coming from those connections. So these are the conferences, these are the symposiums, these are the interdisciplinary events where you find these like-minded people. So coming up, what date are we at? The 29th? We just missed a couple. May 3rd and 4th, our good friends at Harvard, the Harvard Graduate School of Education. There is hip hop at Harvard, absolutely. It's the 8th annual Can't Stop Hip Hop Education Conference. They are rocking over there in Harvard, and you should check that out. You can go to can'tstophiphop.org. Registration is free if you're in the Boston, Cambridge, even New York, and that kind of area. Head up for the show. It's a great event. They have a lot of panel discussions, performances, and again, it's young people, young college-minded people. When you say, I was ranting at the beginning of the show about folks who think that hip hop isn't radical anymore. I don't get it. We're not in the same circles. And these are folks that write for and been seasoned hip hop journalists and not like the kind of clickbaity, crappy hip hop journalism that I rail against sometimes. And they're out here saying hip hop's not radical. And I get that it's easy to say that because you look at, the general landscape of the mainstream hip hop landscape. But man, I'm talking about conferences with young people, college age kids, talking about hip hop and education, hip hop and activism, hip hop and research. I don't understand how you don't see these collaborations and can still sit back and say that hip hop's not one of those most radical cultural movements out there right now. It just doesn't make sense to me. So our job is to, put you on. If you're not familiar, we're here to put you on. So anyway, that's what's happening at Harvard, May 3rd and 4th. They're our good friends. And also May 4th, if you happen to be in New York City, the 2024 Peace and Justice Youth Conference. Shouts to our folks at the Circle Keepers. This is another youth-oriented sort of political activism, educational mixture of hip hop, of youth culture, of what do you call it? The term with justice, social justice, but it's oh God, what's the word I'm looking for? The phrase I'm looking for. Restorative justice. They focus on restorative justice. Now, this is a political thing where it's a whole movement about how you punish criminals. And I'm saying it with air quotes in case you're listening on the audio feed. Restorative justice looks at ways to rehabilitate and to heal both victims of crime and perpetrators of crime who are themselves often victims, right? So you have this restorative justice philosophy happening in the criminal justice system. The Circle Keepers represent that very well, and it's led for the most. I mean, we have adult mentors and such, but it's really put together by young folk. I met with them last year at the Hip Hop Youth and Research Activism Conference. It's just so enlightening and inspiring. And so if you're watching and saying hip hop doesn't have that radical edge, that social justice edge, just pay attention to the show. What can I tell you? I'll be here to correct you in your misgivings about the wonderful culture that we're talking about. May 8th at Cal State Northridge, Sun Cipher is doing a symposium. It features Crazy Legs and other guests. You can check that out. The CSUN Cipher. CSUN is California State University, Northridge. So you see this happening out there. I'm affiliated with them. I'm on their board, and I appreciate the work that they do. I haven't quite gotten out there to rock with them yet, but there's going to be live hip-hop performances and history. There's battles, dancers, graffiti installations, and food. Every good hip-hop event deserves to have some food. So that's May 8th. So we'll come back later on. The last thing I'll talk about is, I'll give you two more, and then we'll get to our fascinating guest who's just arriving and getting situated. Two more. One more. This is Brooklyn, New York. Y'all know I'm New York heavy because all my old contacts are from New York. But if you got really cool, interesting things happening in the middle of the country, somewhere I don't know about, please do continue to send me information so that I can share it with the folks that are listening here and watching on the feed. Watching here and listening on the feed. You know what I'm talking about. This is Confronting Misogynoir in Hip-Hop, Empowerment versus Exploitation. This is at BRIC, which is the Brooklyn, what do you call it? The Brooklyn, what's their full name? It's called BRIC. Everyone knows it as BRIC. They're in downtown Brooklyn. They're a great art center. They put together a lot of multimedia and presentations and discussions and town halls. And Wes Jackson is in charge there. Wes Jackson ran the Brooklyn Hip Hop Festival for a decade or so. So you want to check that out if you're in New York. Again, these are intelligent conversations about serious subjects in and around hip hop culture that you probably would be interested in. And two things, I'll give you two more. Not lastly, but second to lastly. This is overseas. It's out in Europe, in Ireland, in the Emerald Isle. The European Hip Hop Studies Conference is happening. It's called Drop-In Science, happening from May 23rd to 26th in Cork, Ireland. I was going to do an Irish accent, but when I do it, kind of sounds like a very drunk Jamaican. It's weird. I can't quite get it. So I don't do Irish accents. But my people are from Ireland, so it's going to be very nice for me because I'll be presenting at the European Hip Hop Studies Network Conference 2024. So if you're in Ireland or anywhere near there, definitely tune in and turn up out there as we lift a pint, drink some Guinness, and perhaps some Irish whiskey. Not that we should emphasize drinking culture, but, it's Ireland. What can you do? They're not going to be mad. Lastly, but not leastly, our good friends at the Hip-Hop Ed Conference is happening on June 22nd in New York City. Nothing personifies the connection between hip-hop and education than our friends, the vast network of folks who are either in or affiliated with or fans of or participatory agents in the hip-hop ed movement. And their conference is happening on June 22nd in New York City. If you are someone who sends in proposals for these sorts of things, do note that the proposals are due by tomorrow, the 30th of April. But their conference is happening on June 22nd, and we support the hip-hop ed movement. They're our friends. They're our, colleagues as well. Shouts to Timothy Jones, been on the show. Shouts to the great Dr. Chris Emden, who has not been on this show, but we got to make that happen. And in the meantime, my name is Manny Faces. A quick check of the comments. Of course, Andrew Wang is in here rocking. Andrew Wang, a great music educator from Yonkers. And I think that because he's a great music educator in Yonkers, he'll be really interested in our show tonight. I told him ahead of time. He is a member of the Patreon patrons, the folks who are supporting all of this hard work that I give to you. Patreon.com/MannyFaces. A couple dollars a month helps us keep the lights on. I remind you that without the lights on, it would look like this. Nobody wants. This is creepy. It's like an OnlyFans. We don't want that. We want bright lights and hip hop on Hip Hop Can Save America. So that being said, let me thank you for watching. What up to Flow Story in the chat? What up to Andrew Wang, of course? What up to Prism? and everyone else checking in. Sign in. Let us know what you're doing, what you're thinking about, and of course, what you have your thoughts on our guest. I will, without further ado, introduce our guest. It's the 9:30 hour. It's close enough. 9:30 Eastern. We're here every Monday night, 9:30 Eastern. Of course, we do take the interviews. Sometimes you don't want to hear the whole hour and a half, 2-hour banter. We take the interviews and we put them up on the audio feed of Hip Hop Can Save America, the podcast. You can find that at hiphopcansaveamerica.com. You can thumbs up this video right quick if you're still with me and you like what I'm doing. Share it with your friends. We're about to get into our guests, so now's a good time to share the video real quick and say, oh my God, this is a great show. Great guest coming up. Tune in right now. We love it. We appreciate you. Make sure your notifications are turned on and all the things. Oh, yeah. Thank you for copping the merch. We got some merchandise purchasers in the building, and I appreciate it. I'll put up the link later on. There's some Hip Hop Can Save America merch, but enough peddling. Let's get into what we came here for. Just checking to make sure I have everything set because I'm only one person. But now I'm two people because I'm joined by, like we promised you, JooWan Kim from the Hip-Hop Orchestra Experience checking in with us tonight. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Great. I'm doing all right. I'm frazzled and hectic as ever, but I'm doing all right.
Ditto.
Yeah, well, life be lifing, right?
Yeah.
Thank you, by the way. You jumped very quickly on our invitation to come up. We've had you on the list for a while. We've seen what you've been doing for quite some time, and it fits so. I don't know how much you heard of my pre-interview rant, but it's so aligned with what we talk about and what we like to emphasize here on the show. So thank you, long overdue, but thank you for joining us tonight and for your time.
No, thank you for having me. We decided to go quick on it because we're leaving for tour tomorrow, and then we'll be hectic after that. So
yeah,
we thought that do it now. So
I appreciate that. I guess the timing is divine, and so thank you for jumping on it, and congrats on the tour. Let's let the folks know what the heck's going on tour. Tell us real quick. We'll get to the background of how we got here, but let's start at the now. What is the Hip Hop Orchestra Experience, and why are you someone that's going on tour?
Yeah, so this project has been around for like 14 years. This is becoming 14th year in June 17th. And then we're going to Fairfield's Arts and Cultural Center in Iowa. We're going to be there a couple days doing educational workshop and then collaborating with Southeast Iowa Symphony Orchestra. And then we're going to be doing performance, and we're going to also do a screening of our documentary called Method Sampling, subtitle How to Build the Future Together, which I think that you might be interested in. So that's it. That's why we're going out there.
That's all right. That's interesting stuff right out of the gate. What how do you describe, in layman's terms, someone says the Hip Hop Orchestra Experience? I always talk about people who, like some of us in the culture, we've seen this. We know what this looks like. We've seen some of our big icons. We've seen Nas perform at the Kennedy Center with a full orchestra. We've seen Jeezy down here in Atlanta do the same thing. Obviously, y'all were kind of pioneering this a long time ago. We've had friends on the show who do this sort of thing. But those who are not quite familiar, the two things don't jibe. Hip hop and orchestra, they don't quite get it. So, layman's terms, what's the Hip Hop Orchestra Experience consist of? And then again, we'll talk about how we got here. But what does it look like in reality?
So what you will see is the bona fide orchestra with full string section. Generally, it's 13 and up, which means that there will be like 3 each section. So 3 first violin, 3 second violin, 3 violas, 3 cellos, and then a bass. And we have woodwinds, seven of them, including 2 French horn and 2 bassoon, flute, oboe, clarinet, and then soprano, drums. I play the piano and the conduct, and there will be an MC, resident MC. Currently, is our resident. We have rotating resident MC, but for this tour, we have Unity Lewis, who kind of does a lot with Parliament. I think he goes on tour with them sometimes. And we have a turf dancer, who's young Phil, and he did a lot of project with a bunch of different people, but Kendrick and Britney Spears before she posted a lot on Instagram.
Sure. Right. Before things happened.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
So that's what you will see, but the music is all original. And there's some deconstructions on Mozart, Beethoven, Bach, but they're all written out, and it's really different than other legacy acts, like you said, are doing this kind of stuff. It's very much is serving the hip hop aesthetic, and then also not only that, the strings and other instrumental elements, or classical elements rather, it's sort of cosmetic in a way. So it's like really you want to see Nas with National Symphony because it's Nas music, and then Nas music has been realized with the symphony orchestra. So it's an arrangement, but I think the real difference of all the other projects and what we do is that it's original music, and it's also very, not hip hop form, meaning like, when I first started, I would write something like 25-minute piece that's continuing, totally ignoring 16-bar structure, and then sometimes you would have 3 or 4 minute interlude, and then the MC will come back again, and they'll just go on and on and on. So it becomes, I don't want to say classical, but it has a lot of classical in it, more so. And so what I always say is that it's like Columbus. I thought when I first began, I thought I could actually write beats using only classical techniques, right? But what ended up happening was neither. So it's like Columbus thinking that he's going to India. When he arrived, it was America. It was like somewhere else, right? So that's been the challenge, but also it's been interesting because like a lot of people don't expect it when they hear hip hop orchestra, because they are going to expect, okay, you're going to do covers, you're going to do stuff that we know, but
which happens, and that's fun. But
that's right. But it is not. So it's that aspect that kind of touch sometimes the nerves of both hip hop and classical. And classical, obviously, when you put MC in it, then immediately goes somewhere else, sideways for them.
Right.
But for serious hip hop heads, they will be like, okay, well, what is this? Bastardizing the culture, so on and so forth. So the underlying principle of what we do is called meta sampling, which is the movie, what the movie is about. Actually, the documentary that we made that was premiered at Downtown LA Film Festival. We won a Best Music Documentary there. And then it's out now on Amazon Prime, Apple TV, Tubi, you name it. Also on Emirates Airlines. So if you're going to Abu Dhabi or UAE, you can watch it 13 times because
I was thinking about going. So whenever I go a couple times a month, so I'm sure I'll catch it.
Yeah. So the idea is that the meta sampling is an underlying principle of what we do. So what it is to sample something foreign, and then you replace an existing element from a thing that you're trying to inject a sampled material.
Okay.
And when you do that, in my case, in our case, it's the replacing the beat with all the written music that is like 10 minutes long, right? So then it becomes something else, right? So it's not like a buffet of, oh, okay, I'm gonna try to have hip hop here and then juxtaposed with the classical music. It's more like when you do something like replacing an element, you end up creating like a chemical reaction. So you have hydrogen and then oxygen, but then if you combine them, you become water, right? So water is neither hydrogen or oxygen, but it has all of them. So that's the idea.
Method sampling. That's the concept. Is this something you kind of coined? Is this a phrase that you coined, or that evolved from all this? Because it reminds me, when you say we take something and we smack it, flip it, and rub it down and turn it into something new. This alchemy, this musical alchemy, in a way, is sort of at the heart of hip hop. I mean, this is what it's always done. Hip hop famously, Grandmaster Caz says, hip hop didn't invent anything, but it reinvented everything. And so it's a remix culture, it's a remake culture, and it seems like that's more of what you're, if I'm getting this right.
That's very much, that's it. That's exactly it. Actually, what we in the movie, the thesis of movie actually suggests that any innovation, anything that we think that is new, is actually coming from meta sampling. So therefore, you need just foreign element, because what's really new isn't new per se. Meaning, okay, so let me just put it simpler. What's
Yeah.
new is actually newer. Meaning,
Okay.
you will have certain elements that you will recognize, but then there's some parts of it would be changed, right? So that's the idea of meta sampling. So in order to have any innovation, you need to have two or more foreign elements coming together and clash it. And in doing so, there's some magic happens, right? So obviously the name suggests that, as the name suggests, it's you're extrapolating the idea of sampling, and then we are saying, instead of sampling the material, or you dig the crate and then find that right
The loop.
perfect loopable,
Right.
byte, you are doing that with principles. You're doing that with methods, right? So
Interesting.
we go into different sort of examples of it, but historical there. So the another thesis is that it actually exists a long time. So we're just realizing it. We're not really inventing. We invented the term, but even the term itself, it's coming from sampling. So,
Right. You're sampling. You're
correct.
sampling.
So we're meta sampling. So it's
Yeah.
a meta sort of idea. So
Yeah.
what we are showing is, like, for instance, if you're thinking about somebody like Henry Ford, who revolutionized mass production. How did he do that? Because he was walking around and saw a butcher shop, and then he realized that everybody was doing one thing, and then they were breaking down the cow in the conveyor belt.
Mhm.
So what he did, by taking that idea, but then sort of put that upside, like inverted it, meaning that instead of breaking down something like a big thing like cow, you can actually assemble something, like, and then make it into a car. So you can just do one thing, and then it will actually enhance the production rate, right?
Right.
So taking something that is already there and then changing it, and and adding or replacing into the system that you're trying to innovate. So it's a principle of innovation.
Yeah, that makes some sense to me. I want to say we have like I said, Andrew Wang is a music teacher out in Yonkers, New York. Has a question. Can we take a question real quick? This might be some inside baseball to all you music nerds, but I love it. I try to be one myself. Ask a question that maybe helps. What classical techniques do you utilize with hip hop? Is counterpoint being utilized? Is that these kinds of ideas, these kind of like I say, principles being molded in? Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, counterpoint is heavily there. And then, in fact, when we released the second album, which was almost all deconstructions of the classic hip hop tracks, so
Right.
we took G's and Hustlers and then built the Fugue. So you'll find a bunch of examples like that now.
Interesting. Okay, Andrew, I hope that answers your question. It's very cool. So I want to get into a little bit of. We'll get people want to hear it. So obviously, the next thing to do is to jump off and go to the your YouTube. You have a great video, the kind of primer. I was gonna play it, but I figured let's whet their appetite and then they'll get there afterwards. But wait till the end of the show, guys. Don't go now. Just hold on. But I want to get into two things. One, who are the folks you work with? Who are the musicians? Where do they come from? Are they're locally sourced? You're in the Bay Area, I believe. The just chock full of all kind of talent. Just we've talked to so many folks that are hip hop heads and just musical heads, and what a great I don't know what it is, something in the water. But are these locally sourced musicians? When you go on tour, do you find from local, places? Give me the rundown of who's rocking in the orchestra. And this is an ensemble also. Let me not forget to mention. Explain that dynamic, the ensemble, the Metamusic ensemble, and how that whole thing gets worked.
Yeah, so the original name was Ensemble McNauch, but then for some reason people were able to pronounce Nicki Minaj. That's just fine. But then it was McNauch that they drew the line. So they couldn't pronounce McNauch at all.
I just said it. I think I said it pretty
I know,
good.
but
yeah.
Not only that, it's also my name spelled backwards. I did it as a tongue in cheek. Also in classical music, you have like melody, and then you do the retrograde of the melody, like you just go backwards, right? So And it's
You're doing Easter eggs. Who are you, Taylor Swift? What are you doing
it's
here?
like nerdy stuff. Like composers do this stuff. I was
I
going to
love it.
invert my name, but then you couldn't really pronounce certain alphabets. So
Fair enough.
Generally, when we do shows locally, we have a core crew. We actually always reach out, but the core real people who I tour with are the turf dancer and then resident MC.
Right.
And I have a great drummer that we work with. Drummer is really hard to come by, like that can really read and then play with the orchestral instrument. They need to be subtle and then it can't be too loud. So I have a same drummer that I've been working with for over 10 years. And but resident MC has been changing because, this is not their only gig. Not only that, we have a high standard. So, people who we work with are the people that we admire. And then, sometimes they get bigger and better things. In the same way, we have one of our alums now perform with SF Opera as a principal cellist. And also we have, all kinds of instrumentalists, like all the strings. They regularly play with the ballet orchestra and then the symphony, SF Symphony. So really crème de la crème of the local crew. And then when we tour, we actually source, almost all our musicians because everything is written down, just like classical music. So as long as they're trained to read, 1 or 2 rehearsals, they'll be fine. So that's what we're doing. And it makes it actually exciting because when we went to Edinburgh for Edinburgh Fringe, which is the largest performing arts festival. Yes.
Yeah.
So we collaborated with Royal Conservatoire of Scotland. We did a 10-day show. We sold out almost every day. I'm not gonna lie to you. Some nights didn't sell out. And then when we went to Cervantino Festival, which is largest performing arts festival in Latin America. It's in Mexico, Guanajuato. We worked with the local youth orchestra. That was a bigger thing. And then that performance was very interesting because the students weren't the greatest, but they really played with the heart. And we were also, broadcasted nationally in Mexico and then also in other parts of Latin America. So
probably had your biggest audience to date, if that's the case. If I know how Latin American broadcast works, there's a lot of folks that check in from other countries where if you're in America, no one's checking for you but us. It's a different vibe. All the Wine asks, and this is a good way to segue into like when you first did this. I've heard your story, kind of how this first the spark of innovation happened in your life. So leading into that, tell me, kind of who you were before, like BHH, before hip hop and AHH. All the Wine asks, by the way, All the Wine is great moniker. JooWan, what do old classical folks think about your music when you have live shows? So I think this ties into a little bit like how you started, what you were doing as this came to life and what the initial reaction was. That's fair to say? We can segue there?
Yes. So first of all, I didn't grow up here. I came to the United States when I was 20 years old from South Korea.
Yep.
So I was pretty much formed as a person. I wasn't a child. So in Korea, you will find, unlike this country where I can comfortably say now that the genres of music and subculture of people are kind of related, like connected sometimes. So for instance, if you are a person that listens to metal, you can kind of picture that person. Or if you like punk rock, if you're hip hop heads, if you are a classical person, so on and so forth.
Okay.
But you will find it very not like that anywhere else, especially in Asia where everything is just foreign and new. It's like, for instance, for me, classical and pop music when I was growing up was the same. Why? Because it was just like Western music. For me, the only difference between classical music and pop music was that classical music had more things to learn about, and I was nerdy, so I wanted to get into it. So that's how I started. So given the fact that I have no idea of this kind of siloized cultural sort of environment of America, I always felt that I could do whatever. So if you I don't know whether you listen to any K-pop. I hope you didn't, but if you listen to their beats, you'll find different genres of subgenres of dance music existing in one song, which rarely happens in
Okay.
America.
Yep, I get that. I
Yeah.
understand that.
So
Yep.
the reason for that is that they don't care about this. They don't have a concept of this cultural sort of differences.
Like you said, siloing, like these
Yeah,
that
correct.
makes sense. Okay,
That's right.
makes sense.
That's right.
It's just all the same. It's all the same pot.
All the
It's all the
same, all
same.
the
Yeah.
same pot, just different. It's just you as a Korean, you'll say this is just different than Korean. That's what they want.
Okay,
right?
interesting.
So when I actually started doing this, it was actually a protest against so-called concert music aesthetic, which is very European. And I also wanted to be a composer because I listened to Beethoven #5 when I was 10 years old in Korea. And then I was blown away. But not only that, I found out the guy was deaf when he wrote it. And I was like,
Right.
how does that work? What kind of training? Or is it just like a giant genius? Like no one
Right.
can emulate that. Like, how does that work? But it's not an isolated incident. Like generally composers stop writing because they can't see, not because they can't hear. If you can't see, you can't write anymore because simply all the harmonies, the way you figure out is sort of more like architecture sometimes when you figure out the distance between the tones should be this way, that way, and then you can, imagine the sound, especially if you didn't lose hearing from the
Right.
get-go.
From begin.
So-
Right.
Yes.
So you're saying
like
it's a more visual practice than laypersons would think.
Yeah, but like people do this all the time. Right now, if I read Hip Hop Can Save America in my head, I will hear that, right?
Right.
Right. So if you're a trained composer, if you're trained well, not everybody does this, but if you can read flutes, violins, you will hear that in your head, right? So I was fascinated by it. I was like, how is that possible? This is incredible. I want to be able to do this, blah, 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 blah. So my entry point was like, this is some awesome shit can I swear?
Yeah, well, we
cool?
did. Yeah, we're good.
Okay,
Hip-hop.
so
Yeah.
yes. So can I? So I wanted to do that, right? So it's like seeing Mike Tyson and wanting to be a boxer. It was the same idea. It wasn't
Got it.
never like I wanted to like wear wigs, looking like a fake European with the
Right.
powder face on. So I wanted to, because that's like also literally like some sort of appropriation and weird cultural fetish, right? Like I wasn't into that, right? So.
Right.
When I got into the end of my studies in my undergrad, I realized that they were obsessed with this idea of inventing new language. But for them, new language must be created by the composers that know things, and then they are going to change the world. So for instance, there was this crazy idea called atonal music, 12-tone music that started, and it sounds horrific. And they thought that, okay, this way of writing will spread, not to just classical music, but music at large, meaning like, Kesha will sing some 12-tone pieces. Never happened because it's unnatural, right? So it was really weird thing, but they're obsessed with it still. That's what they do in academia. So when I was
It's like that language. They tried to make a universal language. I forget what it was called.
So
yeah. Go ahead.
And then by the way, my battery is like dying right now, so I have 10% just in case if I get cut off. That means that I am. So I'm gonna be very quick. So
okay,
I was rebelled against it, and I thought that okay, if I put MC in it, they're gonna hate it. So that's exactly what I did in one of my pieces for the composers concert, which was a bougie event for the department, and they were terrible. They were pissed, and what ended up happening though, we got full page write up. Not only that people loved it, my MC at the time suggested that we make an album, and then I decided to go for it. And so that's how it began.
So it was like you said, a protest piece, sort of. I
That's
have it
right.
here. Yeah, you said
That's
you're
right.
protesting the oppressive aesthetics of chamber music, which is very much like you said, the westernization, the Europeanization, and saying,
Yeah.
look, it can be more than this. And your wedge of choice was hip hop.
That's right. That's
Interesting. You didn't do it as I'm gonna combine these two things. Like it wasn't a long-term plan.
No. Because Anybody who does that, they're usually freaks, and they usually don't end up doing what they do. Those people
Right.
are the one that you should not support, because
Interesting. Right.
and they also lie to you if they know, because Columbus didn't know where he was. He was just going to west. He thought that he could get to India, right?
It's
So
interesting that it's an accidental or let's say an organic discovery.
it is an accidental discovery.
Yeah.
It's an
That's
accidental
interesting.
discovery.
Yeah.
And like the forum too, I was writing 25-minute long piece. Didn't
Right.
make any sense, right? So now, because I have luckily, executive director who's into hip hop, he's like, bro, you can't write it's
Right.
not
Right.
like it's not gonna
Which
work.
is also
So,
hip hop. Like if you hear early rappers will say, we just wrote, we had no concept of song structure. That's why the early rap songs like 8 minutes long, and it's just like 7-minute verses. Like they had no concept of song structure. So it's sort of following the same kind of parallel, discovery.
that's right.
Over
That's
time.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a wonderful thing. I love that it's organic, and it was something that you discovered along the way and said, okay, how can I keep doing this, but also keep it not just authentic to your classical music, training and upbringing, and not keep it authentic to hip hop, but keep it authentic to the mixture. Because again, like we could throw orchestras behind that are just recreating the jazz samples that were sampled to make the record in the first place. And that's great. And it sounds great. And I've seen it done. And I think it's brilliant. But to say, I still want to compose, I still want to do original music.
That's right. So I might get cut off, but I want to
Okay.
say that method sampling actually distinguish between methods, which is essentially pieces of technology that you can actually use
Right.
to make anything,
Right.
and culture. A lot of times people use culture as like a term that can conflate things, because culture means a lot of history and blah, blah, blah. In our system, though, culture just is incidental. Method is much more important, because with the method of sampling, method of sampling the principle itself, you can build anything. So right now, I think it's much more sort of useful, because a lot of times when people say that you're doing this and that, and it just confuses people, and then it can divide people if you're saying that it's this culture, therefore you cannot do this. So I wanted to really be surgical in like explaining this, so that people can open up to experiment, but also recognize where this is coming from. But as the subtitle of the movie, we can build something together. So our approach is very much forward facing and future driven, as opposed to what we have done before wrong. You know what I mean? Because then
I love it.
It gets endless.
Right.
So
I get it. We're living in a hip hop 50 world. I'm like, what about hip hop 51 and 52? Like, what are we doing moving forward? Nostalgia is great. Covering the history is great. You got to do it. You got to do it right. We got to make sure the stories are told, especially with folks still around to tell those stories. But what are we doing to move forward? So the documentary is out. We'll get you before you get cut off. The documentary is out on some of the streaming networks. You said just run them through again.
It's Amazon Prime, Apple TV.
And the name of it is?
Method Sampling, subtitle, How to Build the Future Together.
Wonderful. Real quick, I don't know how much time we got left. You got me scared that you're going to like leave us.
It's a low battery, like on.
Oh no! Andrew has a question. Again, this is inside baseball, but you might like it. The classical styles that influence your orchestration: minimalist, like Philip Glass, or romantic, like Debussy. I don't know if that's how you pronounce Debussy, but that's how I've always pronounced Debussy.
Definitely both. I went to school in San Francisco where the minimalism actually began, but so minimalism is there, but it's different. It's a new music. I would say it's a very American phenomena. It has genuine hip hop in it, bro. Like, so you can actually rhyme to it, but it also has a lot of classical in it. So it's a new kind of concert music that only America can produce at this point of time.
I love it. The soundtrack of America expanded into this kind of mixture. I was happening. Where I'm in Atlanta. You coming to Atlanta, bro? Like, come through. Like, we hang out. I'd love to see this.
We'd love to.
All right. I had you at mcnewoosh.com. Is that still
That's good. Yeah. We just had to, brand again, but we're
I
the same.
just want people to know where they can find y'all when you're moving around.
That's right. So if you can't pronounce or comprehend McNose.com, just type Hip Hop Orchestra Experience. And there are other hip hop orchestras. Just find the best one, but you'll find that ours is different. So
wow. All right. I like it. JooWan, thank you for joining me. What we're gonna do is for the folks that want to kind of see and hear this, I'm gonna play the What is Hip Hop Orchestra Experience video that's on your, the YouTube page, and then let people kind of dig in and check out the documentary as well. Please let us know where and when you're going to be. I got a newsletter. We do this show every week. I'd love to tell people where you are and where you're going to be, and I'd love to talk again and get some more insight.
We should talk again. I think that because this is like a lot of it's a lot. What we do is a lot. So I think that pandemic has been good for us in a weird way, because we always felt that we were 10 years ahead because we weren't doing any covers like the way everybody else did. So I think that the history has accelerated, and we are kind of getting there. So there are exciting things building.
I've always been like 30 years ahead, so I understand exactly what you mean. I was, I felt like I was podcasting when I was 11. So you know what I mean? So I get that kind of vibe. JooWan, thank you so much for taking the time and getting through this before your battery dies. We'll connect again soon in the future. This is about the time we're going to run, but again, keep me abreast of anything you're doing. Be happy to spread the word to everybody else.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Be safe and enjoy the travels.
Okay. Bye.
Right on. There it is. Once again, JooWan Kim, the Hip Hop Orchestra Experience, featuring ensemble McNuage, not Nicki Minaj. McNawooge. Yeah, that's what I said. See, I messed up the pronunciation. Dang it. Anyway, everything is always so high-powered and frantic over here. So I thought this was great. What did y'all think? Hit me in the comments. I love that y'all been talking about it in here. It's interesting. We have seen, and don't forget, my man The Phantom has come on here. He's been a member of this show, The Phantom and the Ilharmonic Orchestra, and they've been going around and they do some original music and they do some covers as well. So there's lots of different folks doing this, but there's something about JooWan's, approach that really fascinated me, and it's been sitting on my list for a long time. And I don't know, I saw something come across recently, and I was like, oh, it's time to get this guy. If y'all want to do this, if y'all want to hear and see a little bit more of this, let me know. I'm going to share this. I didn't have this loaded up. So I need y'all help, audience members, people in the chat. Let me know if you hear this. Seeing it's not going to be a problem. But I got the audio is funky here sometimes. Nope, let's switch these. Let me know. Really? Let me know if you could hear this.
Hip-Hop Orchestra Experience. Hip-Hop Orchestra Experience.
All right. Let me know if you heard that in the chat. And I know there's a delay, so you got to give me a second for people to tell me that they did or did not hear the audio in the video. Because if they did, then we can play it. And if they didn't, then I got to figure it out real quick on the fly. So just you heard it. Fantastic. Shouts to Adam Cruz, another dope supporter. Let me play this for y'all because it will give you a little bit of an idea. People did say in the comments there that they wanted to hear it to get it. And I get it that you need to hear it to get it. That makes sense? All right. Let me play this real quick. It's like 3 minutes. It's all good. Let's go.
Hip-Hop Orchestra Experience.
Hip-Hop Orchestra Experience.
We are a hip-hop orchestra, and it's an experience.
Taking was mine, I read between the lines. You're gonna find she want me. Standing my ground, can let a man assault me. All in your house, I can tell you, salty, that's my shit.
The way I began this project was to actually use only classical techniques to mimic hip-hop beats. As I replaced the beat element of hip-hop music, I realized that something else happened. So it's a new kind of music that is completely acoustic, completely written down, completely original, and it is controversial.
Money over bullshit, move over barriers. Money off the books, let them know that you're serious. Occupy yourself and organize your area. Gotta keep it going cause shit is getting scarier.
Hip-Hop Orchestra Experience has been around, this is our 14th year, and we've toured all over. We went to Hong Kong. We went to Edinburgh Fringe, which is the largest performing arts festival in the entire world.
It's a journey, don't stress about what's after. I believe in you, even through the tears and the life of lesbian, pessimistic and more optimistic. It ain't Christmas this month, but I'm still gifted.
And then we went to Cervantino Festival, which is the largest performing arts festival in Latin America. We are based in the Bay Area, Oakland, because we go hard. And some of our alums now play with SF Opera, SF Symphony, SF Ballet, and last but not least, we have young Phil, who is a turf dancer, who performed with Britney Spears, Jack Harlow, Kendrick Lamar, and he's representing us.
Search through all your school text history books and you will find fiction hitting you right in the baseline after line. With our powers combined, it's time to get about this mess. My people unify, let's revolute, we've been oppressed by slave masters, posted in school teachers nonetheless. Policemen, politicians, businessmen, that's the truth.
For this program, we are going to pick about an hour of music, and then among them would be the deconstructions on Beethoven, Mozart, and Bach, that we actually completely make it into some sort of hip-hop music. And that will be all punctuated by audience member and then alum interviews and some of the spicy opinions on what people think about this stuff.
Winds about how California times are flying from all days to west side. Ladies shaking like Cali quicksand. It's the Golden State and ain't no debate. You got the West Coast capital. That's just.
But what we're trying to do is not hip hop nor classical. What we're doing is to actually create, is to create something new in the context of concert music.
All right, there you have it. One time. One time for the Hip Hop Orchestra Experience. You can check them out at, let's see, the website again, currently, before they do their rebranding, Miknarouge at miknaouj.com, MIKNAWOOJ.com. On the screen there, you see it, but also obviously look up the Hip Hop Orchestra Experience. Not too hard to Google. Y'all know what to do. And that was that. So shouts to JooWan Kim and the good folks there as well. He looks like the guitarist for Dragon Force. I had to put that up. You got to put that up. You got to put that up. Dragon Force. I've heard Dragon Force. I know what you're talking about. I know some things. That's wonderful. So that was pretty dope. Once again, thanks for checking us out. Hip Hop Can Save America every Monday night. Let's take a breather. Let's take a breather. I don't have much else to talk about. If you were in the first part of the show, you heard me, big up some news items that were in the fantastic newsletter that we send. If you like what we just talked about, you'll definitely like the newsletter. Please believe me. This is the type of stuff we talk about all the time. And we send information like this, and you'll be like, oh my God, it's the first time I heard of something like this. I'm like, well, no. If you had been down with me from the beginning, this wouldn't be the first time you heard about something like this. This might be the first time you heard about something like this, because they do it differently, and I really like their approach. And I wish I was in Iowa. I'd love to go see them live, but I'm in Atlanta, so I'm gonna pull some strings and see what I could do. I got something I'm working on down here in Atlanta, where I might want to bring together some of these interdisciplinary hip hop save America kind of ideas. So let's see what I could do. Meanwhile, you could help support the show and help make these things happen if you like the fact that I'm guiding us and I'm the only one consistently bringing you this kind of hip hop intersectionality type stuff. Manny Faces on the Patreon, patreon.com/Manny Faces. So I would appreciate your support. In the meantime, y'all want to hang out with me for a few more minutes? Let's talk about it. Maybe I'm going to, please put your comments in the chat. We'll come back after this quick bathroom break. I haven't done the bathroom break video in a while. If you don't have to use the bathroom, it's fine. Just watch the video. It's very, very entertaining. And then we'll talk about what's on your hip hop mind for just a little while before we call it a night, if you don't mind, including this interview. We could talk about it some more. I want to know we have some music teachers in the room. We have some people that, might look at this and say, I don't know, man. This ain't really hip hop to me, bro. Or you might have someone on the other side to say, listen, classical music needs to be separate. We can't really merge these worlds. You know, it's like Beyonce doing country. It can't happen. Okay, let me know about it. And if not, I will give you this open forum to bring up any question, any hip hop related thing. Earlier in the show, very early, I just caught wind of Eric Adams going to be on Drink Champs. I'm going to get into that probably in depth, but if you want to just talk about it right quick, we'll talk about what's on your hip hop mind. Let's take a bathroom break, 3 minutes. Don't go. And if you don't have to use the bathroom, watch the video. It's quite entertaining. And then let's talk for another 20 minutes or so, give or take. And if not, then just everyone can log off and I'll come back and it'll just be me and I'll be like, I didn't want to hang out tonight. Let's go.
Running back to you.
I love it. I'm back. I love it. It just loops again one more time. I like when I made the video. Just one time for me for making that video.
Manny Faces. You sick for this one.
When I made it, it was like COVID was resurging. And so that's why I was like, COVID's back. And then like COVID hasn't really been back in a little while. And I know it's still out there and doing its thing, but I'm glad it hasn't really kind of, I'm glad that hasn't happened. So, yeah. So anyway, if you checked out the interview, JooWan Kim, Hip-Hop Orchestra Experience, pretty dope. I like it. I hope you liked it as well. It was really a last minute. It was a last minute. Why am I coughing so much? It was really a last minute thing. We reached out like yesterday. And they were like, yeah, we'll be on tomorrow. I actually wasn't going to have a guest on tonight, to be honest with you. I didn't have anyone scheduled, and I'm backed up on turning the old ones into, standalone videos. And so, I was like, oh, good. I'll have an off week. I'll have one less thing to do. And now, nope. But it was fascinating and I love it. So once again, shouts to people in the chat, including some of our support. Hey, shouts to some new faces. Aaron Rodwin is in here. Shouts to Aaron. Shouts to Andrew Wang, of course, Raphael. All the wine. You're new. All the wine. Were you here before? Do I know you? I love it if you're new. Shouts to you. Right. I'm gonna be honest with you. This was so fast, the turnaround. I didn't know there was a documentary. I didn't even know. Like I knew about the tour. I knew they were about to go out and do things, but I know they've been around for 14 years. I didn't know there was a documentary. He tells me, it's like, y'all gonna watch the documentary. I'm like, oh, yeah, of course, the documentary. Yeah, absolutely. Tell everyone again who I didn't even know it was a documentary. So I'm excited to go see it. I have Amazon Prime. We're gonna make it happen. Prism, my man Prism, you're one of the interviews I need to turn around and finish up. I'm working on it right earlier tonight, so we'll be out soon. We'll have that. Obviously, you can watch the restream of the live stream to catch Prism from PR-ism from Chosen Zulu, who had a great conversation about his organization and using hip hop, obviously, to uplift and enhance people's lives. If hip hop can sample anything, then everything is potential hip hop. Therefore, it's all hip hop to me, says Prism. I like that. I think that there is an interesting argument to be made I've heard people that don't like this. An interesting argument to be made that because of hip hop's kind of remix culture, that yeah, anything can be hip hop and hip hop can be anything, but not everything that has hip hop in it is hip hop, right? So everyone could be hip hop, but not everyone who does hip hop is hip hop. Oh, it's a complicated web we weave when we look into what it means to be hip hop. Am I right? In fact, that's something that's been on my hip hop mind. What's on your hip hop mind? Oh man, I hate when it comes out of it and it doesn't come right back to the right scene. I got to work on this. We're getting there. We're almost there, guys. We're almost at like CNN quality production here, but without the CNN budget. Anyway, what's on your hip hop mind? That was a good question. If hip hop, not a good statement once again, Prism. If hip hop can sample anything, that everything is potentially hip hop. I mean, that's one of the things to me. It's been the greatest thing about hip hop. Look, I'm not from the community. Look how I present. You know who I am. I don't come from a community that birthed hip hop. But one thing about hip hop was that it was always like, listen, we are the epitome of inclusivity. Okay, this is the gift that young African American, Hispanic Americans gave to the world. First America, now the world, was saying, look, we're actually on the wrong end of the stick historically. Y'all are doing everything wrong to us. We found a way, though, to rise up and, and make something happen. The something out of nothing that people say. I don't really like that phrase. I like make something out of everything. Right? Because make something out of nothing. I mean, we were nothing. And then we made you weren't nothing. You were never nothing. They were never nothing. But semantics, it's fine. And then say, not only are we going to use this to uplift and improve ourselves, but we'll take the world with us. We're fine with that. We're always trying to just say, hey, just all we want is equality and equity and inclusivity and belonging, and we can do that through hip hop. And you see, it works because people like me, people from all walks of life, were then welcomed into that culture. That culture expanded. Said, we got our roots. Don't get it twisted. We know from whence we came, but we also come from from civilization, from the cradle of civilization. We've come through this. So we have all the DNA that is inclusive of the world, and we're trying to give you the answers. That's what I always found. And especially in my later years, as I start covering this, what hip hop offers, man, it's just so fantastic. On your hip hop mind, from the audience, from my friends, Adam Cruz. Some collabs I've seen between wind bands and orchestras with hip hop artists have been dope, and some have been whack. I'm more concerned with the ethics of these collabs than the aesthetics. Okay. Good point. The ethics. So I guess, Adam, this kind of goes to like what a lot of us talk about when we see these, interact. I know a lot of people, look, you're an academic and you work in an academic institution and you have a Hip Hop Innovation Center, which is doing great work. And you know that there are some people that just look at hip hop and academia as something that's poisonous and not supposed to be working together. And that somehow that means that either hip hop has been subjugated or corrupted, or that the educators are just kind of pimping it, pimping a culture for their own, or the colleges are pimping it so that they could put butts in seats. And obviously some of that's true, right? You'd agree, I think. But also it's not always the case. You'd also agree, I think, because there's that authentic, self-aware, one foot in the culture, one foot in the institution that people do. So that's interesting to say that, of course, across all of these things, and I can see why. He said it. JooWan said it. So that even hip hop heads are going to be like, this is a bastardization. This is not look at my friends Gangsta Grass, right? They do bluegrass and hip hop, the same kind of thing. They're not trying to say, here's the bluegrass version of hip hop, And they're not trying to say this is the hip hop version of bluegrass. But we've seen collaborative events like the ill-fated LL Cool J and Dude accidental racist kind of collaboration, which was like, here's what we're going to do if we merge hip hop and we merge country and we put it together. Like, that's so calculated that it comes off as disingenuous. What Gangsta Grass says is we do bluegrass, we do hip hop, but we're not doing bluegrass hip hop. It's something new that has both of those DNAs. That's the difference. That's what I think we looked at tonight. That's what I got out of it. I might be, I don't like to get too hype and too, riding of any of my guests. I'm a journalist. I'm very, sensitive, but I'm super sensitive, Adam, to your point about, watching out for the ethics as opposed, because you could do everything the way you're supposed to, and, but what's your core intent and where you coming, and where you coming from? This is a good, I wanted to get in this, but it's better it was low because the subtitle, Adam Cruz says, are predominantly white and Eurocentric institutions like orchestras interested in transforming through these collabs, or is it all performative to put black faces on websites and brochures? Same thing we're just talking about. And obviously, Andrew Wang just came to me tonight and showed me the American Federation of Teachers. I got to look it up because I forget what the American Federation of Teachers is highlighting in their national conference. Here it comes. In their spring education conference, special musical guest, rap legend Grandmaster D. Musical guest, Grandmaster D, turntable artist and member, of course, of the legendary hip-hop group Houdini. And it's cool that the American Federation of Teachers is bringing in a hip-hop icon, a pioneer, an architect, an OG, whatever you want to call it, into the American Federation of Teachers conference. And my immediate reaction, my visceral immediate reaction was like, that's cool. Do they have any hip-hop teachers being featured at the United Federation of Teachers conference? Andrew tells me the answer is no, that they don't have any hip-hop, oriented education sessions. I didn't see the program. I'm taking his word for it because I know he looked. We might have missed something, but the point is, same thing. Like, you're the United Federation of Teachers. There's an entire ass hip-hop ed movement filled with hip-hop based educators. An entire movement. Books, literature, as y'all call it. Y'all smart school people. But we call it like research papers and research studies. But y'all call it literature. And so I'm using the right term, I know. Conferences, the Hip Hop Ed Conference is literally happening at Teachers College? Whatever. They're affiliated with Teachers College in New York City at Columbia. But the United Federation of Teachers Association dips their toe into hip hop by having an important, but you feel me? So it's something that we're on the lookout for. And I know there are people, I know this because I see them. And there are people in my circle, and I'm sure people in yours, Adam, and everyone else, that see what we do. And because they're not inside baseball enough, they don't be in the conversations. They don't be at the conferences. They don't come to the Hip Hop Ed Twitter chat. They assume that the majority of these collaborations are that. And I try to put enough of y'all up here on this platform to let people know that no, like I don't see it. I don't see folks like Adam and folks like Raphael Travis and folks like, my good homies, Lauren Kelly and A Sharp Church and, and Chris Emden and all the folks who do this stuff in those worlds. Plus, not to mention like the hip hop mental health folks, Elliot Gann and JC Hall and all the people I've talked to and all the people I haven't talked to yet. Like, we see the work that's being done and we can say that this isn't in the interest of filling seats and reaching more black and brown kids. However, which I won't get into tonight, but I will soon, we see that there's a lot of that pandering in other areas, specifically because this is an election year. I'm seeing it a lot in politics. And you might have seen my screed about a year ago about how the right wing was purposefully injecting themselves into hip hop media to get in front of these audiences that they previously had no connection to. And so I worry about that because I worry about the reach that hip hop media now has with the Joe Buddens and the Math Hoffas and now Elliott Wilson. You saw. Now I'm inside baseball because you got to really know what I'm hip hop media like I know it. Elliott Wilson is now editor in chief of a conglomerate sort of coming together of Hip Hop DX and Up Rocks. You know, these are disparate hip hop media outlets, and now they're together. They've been kind of bought and combined. And Elliott Wilson from Rap Radar fame and who's been a journalist for a good long time is now at the helm. And I worry about how easy it is for actors who are trying to put forth a message that isn't necessarily conducive or helpful to the Black community, to the Hispanic community, to poor communities, realizing that they can get in front of a hip hop audience, which often connects to those communities, and they're doing so, and they're not. The folks who are interviewing them or putting them on the pedestal or putting them on the platform aren't qualified, honestly, to be honest, aren't qualified to be political-minded interviewers. And so their rhetoric is being left unchecked. The messaging is being spun and not countered and not questioned. And because digital is so pervasive in the way that you could if I want you to see this video and you watch someone else's video, I can target you with ad money. And so that when you're done watching their video, you'll see my video. I do this. I actually do this because I'm trying to build a thing here and you have to put some money into it. So if you like, I don't know, what was one of the videos that I might have attached to? I don't remember what it was, but let's say it's another smart political discussion or another smart political hip hop channel out there. Like FD Signifier is a pretty good cultural commentator that also delves into hip hop sometimes. I figure his audience might like kind of what I do because it's like smart and brainy and hip hop. So I pay a little bit and I say, hey, if you like that video, show my video on your YouTube feed. When they started to realize, I think it's been being done for a long time. I hope I'm not losing y'all. When politicians, particularly the right, which previously couldn't get in front of these audiences, you can't put an advertisement for, a right wing, figure or policy like on the Cosby Show back in the days or on Black TV or whatever, on Moesha, like. Even you'd be wasting your money because no one's watching that. No one's feeling, they're going to tune it off. It's not going to work. But there's a way that through digital advertising and through digital, marketing that you can get these ideas in front of audiences that you never really had a connection to. And because they're being fed misinformation, because they're young and impressionable sometimes, and they don't really have the civic education that, some of us older folk might have been lucky enough to have, you start getting those messaging in ways that weren't expected before. So again, it goes to what Adam was saying, the intent, the ethics, the reasoning behind all these things. There's a tangled web that we're weaving out there. And hip hop is, when I say hip hop can save America, it's because we have this power to come together and do all these wonderful connective things. But also hip hop can help divide America. And so we have, as Karis once said, to counter all the criticism about hip hop throughout the years, if hip hop supposedly has this power to corrupt young minds, well, then it, by definition or by nature, has the ability to uplift them. Like if something can corrupt you, then it has the same power to uplift you. if it can influence you one way, it can influence you the other. It's influential. So it's how does that influence present itself? And we're seeing a lot of that happening. So I will go into my thoughts about platforms like Drink Champs, platforming Eric Adams, platforms like Joe Budden, platforming Candace Owens, platforms like Math Hoffa, platforming RFK, and not understanding all of the things that I just talked about. Just looking for the traffic, just thinking it's cool, just thinking it's interesting to have these big gets, but not understanding that you're opening up your audience to be pimped and ravaged by folks who have a vastly greater understanding of how to influence folks via digital channels. Hip hop is that influential force. And so we have to protect not only, it, but how it is being used. I guess that's my rant for the night. So that being said, that's what's on my hip hop mind. As I just saw earlier before the show, a clip of Eric Adams, Mayor Eric Adams, who is not, in my opinion, a friend of hip hop, although he parades himself to be a hip hop mayor. And if you want to understand why, just hit me up. We can talk about it. I wrote about it in a letter to the mayor's office in New York City when there was a kerfuffle about drill music in New York. And somehow the mayor of New York had never, the hip hop mayor of New York was unfamiliar with drill music. Now Eric Adams has only been mayor for 2.5 minutes. And somehow he was unfamiliar with drill music. And obviously this connection to violence in the streets. And his reaction when he found out about it, thanks to his son or his nephew or something, was to vilify, of course, the young people who are engaged in the violence and the activities in the streets that translated and spilled over to the music. And then went after the social media companies that help spread the information. You make a song about killing your ops and then you put on YouTube. So he's like, YouTube shouldn't allow that, which sounds a lot like censorship to me. Instead of what I think would be the obvious thing to go after, which is the conditions in your city that create the circumstances from which that content is created. Like fix the poverty and fix the lack of opportunity and fix the lack of education, because these are underserved, funded, under-resourced, and underloved areas of your city. If you fix that, then maybe less violence, maybe less turf war, maybe less feeling of hopelessness, maybe less gotta make it any way I can. I mean, am I crazy? So we wrote him a letter and said, I don't know if since you just discovered drill music, you might not understand that hip hop can also, as KRS-One once said, uplift lives and the minds of young people. There are many people who are doing that work. Many of them listen to this show. Many of them have been on this show, and I've advocated and amplified their work. Maybe instead of sitting down with some drill artists and Mano and some other, largely at this point, not very relevant figures in music or street life to some degree. I'm not saying totally. I'm sure folks are still connected and have those connections. But at the same time, maybe you should sit down with folks who are leading hip hop education, hip hop mental health therapy, hip hop community building, hip hop self-worth, hip hop health and wellness movements, hip hop financial literacy, hip hop civic education movements that all exist in your city. And that if you sit down with them, meaning the drill artists and folks in that, then sit down with those folks. And together, you might say, here's some of the problems and here are some of the solutions. So I'm interested in watching Mayor Eric Adams' interview on Drink Champs to see if our letter to the mayor's office, which was responded to, by the way, with a form letter, basically saying that Mayor Adams is very concerned about crime in New York City and is doing all that he can to stamp out crime and criminal activity. Completely ignored the spirit of what we wrote. So, anyway, I don't know how I got here. I don't know. I appreciate y'all for rocking with me. That might be a good snippet for me to take out and put on social media myself. So, shouts again to Adam Cruz, Prism from Chosen Zulu. We'll get your interview up as a standalone. But if you want to see what he has to do with his organization, please check out his video, the live stream from a few weeks back. Raphael Travis, of course, was a guest on this show previously. Thanks for checking out. The Hip Hop Orchestra Experience was our good friends tonight, rocking with us out in the Bay Area, coming to the mean streets of Iowa any day now. But do check them out. We played the snippet. Their documentary is available on Amazon Prime, Apple TV, a few other places. It's called Method Sampling. I'm going to get it right. If y'all are still with me, you need to know How to Build the Future Together. It's a documentary about the hip-hop orchestra. And it's certainly worth watching. I'm going to watch it probably tomorrow, and I'll report back to you how great it was. In the meantime, check them out. Hip-Hop Orchestra Experience online. My name is Manny Faces. You can check me out online at Manny Faces Official on Instagram. Some cool things happening, y'all. Got some cool things happening. If you want to stay abreast of it all, make sure you're signed up for the free newsletter, mannyfaces.substack.com. We come out every couple of weeks. If you're a Patreon member, if you're supporting the show, and thank you again to our patrons there, getting numerous. So I'm going to find a way to, I don't know, put them all on the screen or something. We're getting more and more folks supporting us. And I can't thank you enough. It's so hard to do this mentally, physically, emotionally, but also financially. I've sunk everything I got into, the studio, making it look good, making it sound good, making everything good. When people call in, we don't have technical difficulties. That's because I tried every broadcast service and I paid for a year in advance to get the discount. And, we made sure that everyone could be coming on nice and clean, crisp and clean with no caffeine. I got another set over here that I'm building out. We got the DJ setup working over here. Might do some DJ things again online, might work that into the mix here. A lot of stuff happening, but I've given it all I got. I got nothing left. No one pays me for this. I do some other work. I do some podcast production. I do some speaking and some consulting, and I do some work with schools. That pays my regular paycheck. But nobody says, hey, Manny, this is a great show and it's important, even though we know it is. Working on that, trying to get some help, trying to get some institutional support, some philanthropic support. We're working on it. When that happens, the day that happens, everyone stop. I'm going to cut everybody off. No one's paying me a dime. I don't need you anymore. But for right now, it can really help. Patreon.com/MannyFaces. Most of y'all have left for the night, so I bid you an adieu and a good night. Enjoy the rest of your week. We'll be back. Thank you so much again for supporting. We'll spread the word about this. Just give us thumbs up, give a quick share, and then you could dip. And folks will be looking at this and saying, oh my God, I missed the whole entire episode. And that's crazy. Some stuff happened in Atlanta. I'll be back in New York. I may come into New York for the Hip-Hop Ed conference. I may not. I'm deciding, weighing it out. Come check me in Ireland, the European Hip-Hop Studies Conference. I'll be presenting over there. And if you got some opportunities for me as a DJ, as a speaker, as a consultant, I'm going to play something on my social media. I was just working a little clip from the last interview where it's like, if you got a business and you're not connected with hip hop, you're probably missing out on business, on money, probably leaving a bag on the table. You might be leaving multiple bags on the table. And that goes for every business. And if you missed the last episode, we had a moment where we told Home Depot if they were just this much closer to being in tune with hip hop culture, they could make millions of dollars. And they're leaving it all on the table because they got no clue. So hire me to consult your business as well. talk to my peoples. They also got, we're gonna we'll form a little task force and come and tell y'all how you're doing it all wrong. Your city, municipality, business, educator center, community organization, civil rights organization. Y'all need hip hop. You know how people be like, y'all need Jesus. Sure, if that's fine. Maybe you need Jesus, but y'all all need hip hop. You just pay attention to this show. Pay attention to me. Pay attention to my friends and people we bring on the show. You'll learn how, and you will do your cause a great service by incorporating hip hop into your world. My name is Manny Faces. One time for me.
Manny Faces.
You sick for this one.
One time for the New York Knicks.
Bing bong.
Let's go. Knicks fans are happy. I'm happy. One time for y'all for checking out with me and spending your time with me. I appreciate y'all. Hit me up. You know how to find me. And we'll be back next week. I guess that's it. Peace and love, y'all. I'm out.